Good day. Today I'm going to talk about how to make an underground regulation. This is to explain how the state creates underground regulation and imposes them, in this case, on beverage container recyclers. Today I'm going to use a document. This is a violation checklist that was left at a recycler by a staff management auditor. Now this person is an auditor. I'm familiar with her background. And the violation checklist notes that section 2501A1 was violated. It says, did not remove UBCs from bag or box or other receptacle used to deliver the material to the recycling center. Now in this case, we're talking about a high volume recycler, and the state does have a bias against high volume recyclers. They get more harassment than anyone else, and basically they're told they're doing too much business. But in this case, it says here that the recycler didn't remove the material from the bag or box in which it came in, which is in the regulations. But down under comments, it says transfer containers from one receptacle to another for proper inspection. Now if you look for those words, that instruction within section 2501, anywhere within 2501, you will not find it. That means that this auditor has gone beyond what the regulations say to impose extra conditions. I contend that's underground regulation. So that's how we make an underground regulation. We do it with, in this case, somebody who should know better, or people who don't know any better and are improperly trained and may be unqualified for the position. In another case, I had a client receive an extension on their certification. Probationary certification was extended. This leaves them in a risky position and also subjects them to more abuse. And in that case, section 2501 was noted, and the auditor put in the box moisture. So we must presume that the auditor said that the recycler didn't properly inspect and account for moisture. Now, how is that an underground regulation? Well, again, if you look at the regulation, you won't find moisture mentioned anywhere in that inspection regulation. It's not there. Never has been. Hopefully never will be. Maybe it might be better if it was. At least everybody might be on the same page. The only where moisture is mentioned is in section 2500, and there it's only mentioned in a sign, not an instruction to a recycler. The instructions to the recycler come in section 2535, and there basically the issue of moisture is left up to the recycler. What's happened here is that the department is imposing a standard on the recycler which has never been written nor adopted, and that is that the recycler must not pay CRV for moisture. Well, since the beginning of the program, that issue has been left up to the recycler, and you won't find it in the payment regulations. And the bottom line is, if the recycler purchases moist containers, moist material, they will suffer from a shrinkage. They won't have enough to deliver, and their payment is adjusted based upon what they did deliver, not based upon what they purchased, if it's within tolerances. Those tolerances happen to be 2.5%. So if a recycler wishes to keep a customer, keep them happy, accept wet containers, and run the risk of having the payment reduced based upon not delivering enough weight, then it's up to the recycler. What's happened is, over time, the department has changed the policies, internal policies, but never discussed them with anybody. So where it was once okay, now it's no longer okay. Now they're calling our attention to it. But there are no standards adopted as to how we would apply moisture. This is why it wasn't adopted in the first place, because don't think the department didn't try. It did. When we brought up all the problems, they dropped it like a hot potato. Why? Because they weren't willing to deal with the issues and see if something could be done that was fair and equitable to all and protected the fund. The department chooses to work outside of the regulations. Now, this document is a pre-certification training manual. It comes from Recycler Education and Examination Unit. It's got a copyright of 2014, and it was revised on 12/18/2014. If we go into page 13, here we have daily allowable limits and split loads. Now I could read this to you, but it really doesn't matter, because what it says here is not in regulation. If you go to the inspection regulations, you go to the section on split loads, this is not what it says. And this is what the department is enforcing. What they're enforcing is, if you see 2 or more people in the same vehicle, you can't allow them to sell their own material if they rode together. Ride sharing is good, especially this happens quite a bit in rural counties. What's the policies adopted by the department, not adopted in regulation, have been detrimental to the Rural Counties Association and their members. Now, the other thing is the allowable load limits. This was adopted illegally. We are challenging this in court, but it says, if a consumer tries to sell you a load that exceeds the daily allowable limits, you should reject the whole load or pay scrap only. Now here's the problem. Those regulations were adopted as emergency regulations. That means that the industry virtually had no opportunity to respond to those regulations. They didn't have an opportunity to say they're illegal, you have no authority, that they're too burdensome, that they will hurt the industry, they will hurt jobs. They didn't have a chance to respond at all. Why? Because the department adopted them as emergencies. They also have an exemption that they never have to adopt permanent regulations from emergency regulations. This was a flaw with the original statute. You thought statute was always perfect? No, that's why there's unintended consequences. Now, I commented on this section. I said it lacked clarity. That should have been a red flag to the Office of Administrative Law. They should have forced the department to take it back and work it out until it was clear and acceptable to the industry. No, they didn't do that. What did they do? They took a document after the fact and they clarified what wasn't in the regulation. That's the epitome of an underground regulation. They're still managing this program by the use of notices, of training manuals, even documents such as violation checklists and notice of violations. Anytime they quote a regulation that doesn't say what they're saying happened, it's underground. That's lesson number 1 in underground regulations. Any questions, comments, you can contact us. CalRegSolutions.com. Thank you. I'm Leonard Lang, President, CalRegSolutions, and we are going to start a new website called Save the Bear. Save the Bear is where we want to collect information on abusive state departments for the purposes of letting people know what's happening so that they can demand change, so that they can demand that businesses are treated fairly and honestly and respectfully, because not only do they put money into the economy, they provide jobs, and they are an essential part of sustainability in California. Thank you very much for your time. Leonard Lang. I repeat, this was How to Make an Underground Regulation. Thank you.